ice is stronger than metal if you think about it.
You in her DM, I'm in her mouth, we not the same. Flipping the funk, the heat, the fire, got the flame. Came with the gift, the gab, and blessed with lots of game.
Alright guys, what's going on today? We're back, another episode of Roofless Garage. Today we're going to be working on my Super Duty again. I'm going to show you why it's a good idea to do normal maintenance and check stuff out every once in a while. The reason we're here today, my front drive shaft decided to grenade itself. Now, on the Super Duties, I know this is like a common thing. What ends up happening is the U-joints and the cardan. In the cardan part of the joint, they're not greasable, so over time they wear out and they crack. A lot of times I've seen it caused because guys drive around with their hubs locked all the time, if their vacuum system has failed or whatever. But this wasn't the case. I have a little bit of a video for that, so I'll put it up right now. This was actually kind of ridiculous. I suspected I had issues like this, but I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it is, or bad as it was. It's fixed now. I changed the front axle seals, and the reason I was going into the diff was because of the front axle seals. They were leaking back in the fall. I decided to do them now. So I'm glad it was actually just the drive shaft that blew up, because usually the transfer case takes the grunt of the concern and explodes. Anyways, I'm gonna finish taking out the pieces of front drive shaft off of the transfer case flange and install the new drive shaft in this episode. Yeah, follow along if you want to see what's going on. Really, the only tools you'll need to change a drive shaft, you're gonna need some sort of heat source. This is MAP gas and a propane torch. Pry bar helps. You need a 12 mil wrench. I use a 12 mil ratcheting wrench once I have the bolts broke loose. Another wrench or the proper tool for extensive reach. You're gonna need a 13 mil socket to take the bolts out for the skid plate that goes here. It goes right underneath the transfer case, so you have to take that off. So I'll show you right now why you need the pry bar, because that joint right there is grenaded. You can't really lock this in place. I get the pry bar and I jam it in here, and then as you're loosening it, you can jam it up against something to stop the yoke from spinning. The reason you need a torch, to heat the Loctite off of the bolt to break the bolts loose. They usually don't rust in place, but the yellow Loctite that they put on these bolts, they don't like to come free. So I usually warm it up for a little bit. Helps if you have acetylene, but I don't. I just have this little bottle torch, but it works. It doesn't need to be bright red, but it needs to be warm. So we'll see if I can break it loose now. Oh, and that's why, because it's snug, you just take a double wrench and break it loose. And once all four of them are loose, then you take your ratchet wrench and take it off of there. I'll tell you guys right now, the disappointing thing about this failure is there wasn't really anything wrong with the drive shaft or the U-joints or anything, and this all could have been prevented from some preventative maintenance. So that's why I'm making this for you guys. I neglected something that I knew about, and it didn't go in my favor. Don't ignore your trucks, don't ignore your cars, don't ignore anything. That's the best advice I can say. The instant you know something is not up to par, get ahead of it, because it just ends up being way more expensive than it needs to be. If I would have changed the axle seals back in the fall, it would have been about $30. And now I'm into it for a drive shaft. And honestly, it could have been even worse if this transfer case would have grenaded. So as you can see, once these bolts loosen off, they come out pretty easily. I'm wearing gloves because, well, it's not super warm outside today, but the steel is really cold on my hands. And then where I just heated is fairly warm. And then just kind of give it a tap and the flange pulls off. Yeah, it's easier if you push it out the front. So also, I'll show you guys what usually happens when these things decide to let go from the U-joint failure. So what usually happens is this ball socket in here that goes inside of here, that usually ends up seizing up due to guys that leave their front hubs locked and this drive shaft spinning all the time. Now I can tell just by how these U-joints feel and the look of the ball socket that this was not ready to blow up yet. The reason it blew up was because of the ice in the diff. And as you can see from this piece, which would technically go around and hold everything together, as you can see from this piece, ice is stronger than metal if you think about it. So let's get into unboxing and installing a brand new drive shaft. This is OEM. I did go with the Ford drive shaft. My dealer was able to actually do a better price on an OEM drive shaft than what the local parts stores were able to do for an aftermarket drive shaft. When I can, I prefer OEM over aftermarket. All right, well, look how nice and shiny this is. This is nice. The other nice thing about OEM Ford parts is that they all have 2-year parts warranty on them. 2-year unlimited mileage parts warranty. So we're gonna get this thing up and installed, tighten everything down, and that'll be that. I'll have 4-wheel drive again. Alright, so the other thing I like to do is get all 4 bolts started back into place before I even do anything else. Now that they're all started, I can tighten these ones up. And as you seen, I had the front U-joint straps bolted in place. That was just so that I didn't lose them, because I'm bad at misplacing things. So we'll get these 2 bolts, we'll get the 2 opposite bolts snugged up, and then we'll get the U-joint straps on the front yoke put in, and then we'll come back and we'll tighten all of the bolts. I'll get this up. Whoa. Sometimes a little bit snug to get in, but it went up fairly easily. Cap on. Oh, I'm gonna go find my Loctite. Alright. Now, I don't always Loctite these bolts, but there was from the factory, and a lot of the times I put new bolts in place. If this was a customer's vehicle, it would be getting new hardware. I recommend it just because a lot of times either you round the head off and you can't get the bolt out. These ones didn't turn out to be too bad. So I'm just gonna reuse them. You did see I cleaned where the U-joint actually sat, and I cleaned in the caps. Basically just knocked down a lot of the big rust. Just a little bit of Loctite, just that little extra bit of security so that they don't back out. I've seen reused bolts, specifically these front ones, when they get reused, I've seen them back out. Sometimes you catch it, you hear a weird noise. Other times you don't catch it and you end up with a drive shaft on the ground. So I'd much rather, for peace of mind, just use the Loctite. And just go around on all four of them, make sure. Oh yeah, those are all tight. So this is just sweat from that pinion seal and water, because if I heated this diff up, water was actually leaking out of this seal. That's how much water was in this diff. It was full. So now it's got fresh gear oil, new axle seals in the pumpkin, and it is good to go. Let's go back to here, lift you up. You will tighten these. That's loosened. This is tight. And just go around and check them a couple times. If you jam your pry bar in there, you can get a little bit extra leverage. I don't usually double wrench them when I'm installing them, just because I've never had an issue. I'm sure there's probably a torque spec, and if I remember correctly, it's about 45 foot-pounds, which on a single wrench, that's close enough. Plus there's still some gooey Loctite. That is this week's episode of Roofless Garage. Look at that, we were actually outside today. And again, thanks guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and comment. If you see something you like, comment about it. If you see something that I can work on, comment about that. And we will see you later.